You know, when you think of the truly legendary aircraft of World War II, there's one name that just always seems to pop up: the Messerschmitt Bf 109. For decades, it's been painted as this ultimate aerial predator, a piece of technology that just completely owned the skies. So let's dive into this, because the real story, well, it might be even more fascinating than the legend.
And there it is. I mean, look at it. You can just see those sharp, almost aggressive lines. It's an icon, right? It's become totally synonymous with the Luftwaffe's early war blitzkrieg. It absolutely looks the part, and boy, does its reputation precede it. But a reputation is one thing. The reality is something else entirely.
And this right here is the heart of the myth. This quote really captures how the Bf 109 has been cemented in our minds. It's not just a plane, it's portrayed as this nearly invincible, almost supernatural force of nature. And that is the exact question we're going to tackle. We are going to peel back all those layers of legend and look at the hard data, the engineering, and most importantly, the pilots to find out what really made the Bf 109 so incredibly deadly.
All right, so let's start where any good deconstruction should, with the performance specs themselves. How did the 10-9 actually, stack up against its biggest rivals?
Okay, so check this out. This is the classic Battle of Britain matchup. The Bf 109E, the Emile, was actually a little bit slower than the Spitfire. Its big advantage wasn't raw speed, it was its amazing ability to climb and dive, what pilots call fighting in the vertical. So yeah, it was a totally formidable opponent, but clearly not some unbeatable superweapon that was better at everything. And this trend just keeps going. By 1942, we've got the Bf 109G, the Gustav. But look at its competition. The Soviet Yak-9 could go toe-to-toe with it in a vertical fight. And the newer Spitfire Mk9 was, at least on paper, a better machine overall. A really clear picture starts to emerge here. The Bf 109 was a consistently strong, solid performer, but it was never the statistical monster that the legend makes it out to be. So here's the takeaway. The numbers just don't back up this myth of overwhelming technological superiority. The Bf 109 was a tough, really capable fighter, a true workhorse, but it wasn't magic. So if it wasn't the plane itself that was so special, what was the secret? And this brings us to the real heart of the matter. Because, as we all know, a weapon is only as good as the person who's actually wielding it. I mean, just look at this. This exploded view of the cockpit really shows you how complex this machine was. This is not a simple point-and-shoot weapon. It is an incredibly intricate system of controls and gauges that demanded immense skill to master, especially when you're under the stress of combat. But here's the amazing paradox. Even though it was so complex for the pilot, the Bf 109 was an absolute marvel of mass production. This quote gets it exactly right. Germany could churn these things out at an unbelievable rate, and that was a massive strategic advantage. So if the plane was a strong average that you could build a ton of, the formula for its legendary success has to be somewhere else. And it was. It was a combination of two things: the human factor and a couple of key technical tricks up its sleeve that gave it a real edge when it counted. First, the human factor. This is so critical. The pilots who flew the Bf 109 in the early days of the war were not rookies. Far from it. Many were battle-hardened veterans from the Condor Legion in Spain. They had more flight hours, more combat experience, and more advanced tactics than pretty much anyone they were flying against. They were a genuine elite. And here's that technical edge I was talking about. This is so cool. While the Spitfire's engine used a carburetor, which would flood and cut out if you pushed into a hard dive, the Bf 109's Daimler-Benz engine had direct fuel injection. What did that mean? Well, it meant a German pilot could slam the stick forward and dive away from trouble, and the Allied pilot literally couldn't follow without their engine sputtering to a halt. That's a game-changing tactical advantage. And this is the engine that made it all possible, the Daimler-Benz that housed that revolutionary fuel system. When you combine this kind of technology with the incredible skill of an expert pilot, you create a synergy that is way, way deadlier than just the sum of its parts. Now, to really understand this dynamic of pilot over plane, I want to tell you about a really fascinating case study that comes from outside the Luftwaffe, the story of a Finnish ace.
What you're seeing here is the Bf-109 in Finnish markings, and it's a great reminder that this wasn't just a German plane. It was an export, a tool used by several countries. In this case, it was a tool for Finland in its desperate war against the Soviet Union. Same plane, different pilot, different war.
Okay, now I want you to look at this number, 94. Just let that sink in for a second. 94. That is the number of confirmed aerial victories for Finland's top ace, Ilmari Jutalainen. That makes him the highest-scoring non-German fighter ace of all time. I mean, that is just incredible. But here's the killer detail. Take a look at his record. He was an ace in the Dutch Fokker, a supreme ace in the American Brewster Buffalo, of all things. And then he gets into the Bf-109 and just keeps on scoring. He got over half his kills, 51 of them, in the Messerschmitt. This wasn't a story of a superplane making a pilot great. This was the story of a great pilot making every single plane he flew a deadly weapon. And that, right there, is the core lesson. The legend of the Bf-109 isn't really about the machine. It's about that lethal combination of a very good, mass-producible aircraft in the hands of some of the best trained pilots in the world. So, what does this all mean for the legacy of this famous aircraft? Where does that leave us? Well, let's put it side by side. The myth is this unbeatable superplane. But the reality is, honestly, it's way more interesting. It's a well-balanced workhorse whose incredible success was a formula. A good plane, plus a great pilot, plus a few key pieces of game-changing tech like that fuel injection. So, to wrap it all up, what should you remember? First, the Bf-109 was a strong all-arounder, but it wasn't a statistical monster. Second, its early success was built on a foundation of truly elite pilot training. Third, those critical innovations like fuel injection gave those pilots a decisive edge. And finally, and this is maybe its greatest, most overlooked strength, its true genius was that it was a masterpiece of design for mass production. And it really leaves us with one final thought. When we look at all the other legendary weapons of history, the Tiger tank, the Japanese Zero, the longbow, how much of their fearsome reputation comes not from the metal itself, but from that first handful of absolute masters who wielded them? It's a question worth thinking about.